Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. This week I'm going to tie a cruncher. I call it the red stripe. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H230 barbless hook. This one's at size 10, it's on a medium wire and it's finished in black nickel. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Semperfli. It's the Nano silk, it's at 50 denier or 12 aught, and as you can see it's black. So first thing I want to do is a little spot of super glue onto the shank of the hook. This just helps the silk adhere to the shank. I'm going to use my thread just to spread that up the shank. You don't need very much. And I'm going to get 2 or 3 wraps just to catch that in. And I can remove my waste at this point. Now, what I want to do is catch my tail fibres in as I'm going down the shank. And what I've got here, it's a cock grizzle hackle. It's been dyed black. And I want to take approximately a centimetre's worth of the fibres from the stem. I'll just pull that away. And the tips should just line up nicely. Now I want about the length of the shank for the lengthwise, and I'm going to catch that in with a couple of turns. Now at this point I'm just going to tilt this back and remove that excess. Now before I go down any further, I want to catch in my wire rib. And what I'm using is a Semperfli. It's 0.1 millimeters, nice and thin. Just take a little bit of that off, and I'm going to catch that in whilst I'm going down. Now the reason I'm catching in as I'm going down is there's a lot of stuff going to happen with this fly, so I just want to catch down as much as I can and try and keep the body nice and even. So the next thing then, I'm going to tie in some of this stuff. Now this is Hends effect, and what it is a very, very thin red material. Now it's quite thin. I don't know exactly what the length is. It doesn't say. Patina number 8, Pat 08 it is. So it's quite an unusual shade. I really like it. It's not in your face holographic red like some of the stuff you can get. It's just very subtle. So I'm going to catch that in, and I want it to come on top of the shank of the hook and come back with a tail. Again, I'm going to bring that back a bit more. Now on top of that, yep, we're stacking them up today. I'm going to add some Semperfli mirror flash, and this is 1.5 millimeters, and that's going to go on top. I did have a bit cut, but it's gone, so I'm going to place that in, just cut that off like so. Now there's a lot involved with this fly, and I had a conversation the other day about fly tying and fly fishing, and is all the effort worth it? And I think what it boils down to, before I go on with my story, I just want to mention I've come right back a little bit further than I would normally, and just before the hook starts to bend down is where I've stopped, and I'm going to catch in some black dyed pheasant tail here. Yeah, I was chatting to someone on my Facebook in Messenger, and we were discussing the complications of fly tying, and is it necessary to make such elaborate patterns to go fishing. And I think my honest answer is, well, absolutely not. I think fly tying is definitely a different hobby from fly fishing, and you could probably get away with tying up some blobs if you're a still water angler. Blobs, buzzers, snakes, few dries maybe, but you certainly don't need to go into the elaboracies as I'm doing for this pattern. So what's the point? Well, the point, I suppose, is confidence at the end of the day. If you're fishing a fly that you've tied and you've taken great care over and you think it looks good, more often than not you'll fish it a lot more diligently, and if you're feeling positive about something, it's going to work much better for you. And hence, that's why I go to all the trouble of taking my time and trying to tie nice flies. Now I've caught that pheasant tail in by the tips, and what I'm doing is I'm using the rotary function on my vise to wind it up. And the reason I'm using this is I want to avoid the hook point with the pheasant tail, because it is quite fragile, and if you catch the hook point there's a good chance that a lot of the fibres will just ping away. Now you can see it's starting to spread out on me. I'm not overly worried because I've got a nice body shape coming up through the thorax, and what I can do is catch in my thread just over a couple of turns where I know it won't be affecting the look of the fly, and once I've got that in place I'll get a couple of turns in front, then I can simply come in with my scissors and remove this excess. And yeah, so going back to my original point, don't get too enamoured with, I get people saying I can't quite get the head right, I can't get quite, the hackle's too long, the hackle's too small. The fish really don't care, is the answer to that. It's all about the fly tying hobby that you're in. You care, the fish won't care, and you'll be surprised at how badly tied a fly can be and still be effective. I know, I spent years doing it. Okay, I've just brought the Pearl Lurex over, and that's the first protocol. Then the next thing to come over is my red Hens effect, and I want it to be bang in the middle as I can get it. So to get bang in the middle, I'm going to slightly bring it towards myself, and as I bring my thread wrap over, that's going to just ease that red stripe into the middle there. I'll just pull that up now. I've got a couple of wraps in front, and then I can pull that away. And what I'm going to do next is just get a little bit of wax onto my thread and tidy up the front area here. Now I'm going to calculate, I want my thorax to be fairly big, so I'm going to bring my thread all the way back to there. Once I'm happy with the proportions, I can then bring my wire rib around, and that protects my two flashbacks that are coming over the back here. And it'll be difficult for you to see at the moment, but I'll put in some photographs of the finished fly so that you can see the effect that I'm going to get with this. So I've caught that in, and that's looking hunky-dory. Now I've bent the wire back, I can just twist away, and I'm now ready for my thorax. I'll just give you a quick look at the top, how it's looking. Looks pretty good. Now the thorax, I'm simply going to use some Peacock Herl, ever reliable as a thorax material, and I'm going to take just a couple of strands out. Now I want to get rid of the ends here. Now you can just tie these in if you want, I just like to tidy it up a little, and I'm going to catch it in. Now once I've got that caught in place, I can come down, and I'm just going to get a little bump into the thorax area, nothing much, just a little. And I'm going to bring that to not quite the front of the hook. Remember, we're going to tie a hackle in there, and I don't want to crowd out the eye, so leave plenty of room at the front. And before I bring my Peacock Herl, again, it's a very brittle material, So what you want to do is just get a touch of super glue onto your thread, and when you bring your Peacock Herl around, this will simply protect that. Or up to a point, I would say. Once you start catching fish, you're obviously going to get a little bit of damage to the fly, and that can't be helped. But I always say, if I get one fish for one fly, I would take that every time. So I've built myself a nice little thorax with a Peacock Herl. I'm going to come round, catch it into place, couple of turns to secure it, couple of turns in front. I can then come in and remove my excess Peacock Herl. Now, I'm a great fan of when I tie my hackles in, the hackle covers the body, it sweeps back like a teardrop effect. But on this fly, I've gone to quite some lengths to make a nice back. So what I want to do is select a feather from my hen cape here, from quite near the bottom. So it's quite a small feather, which I've already done in Blue Peter fashion. And what I want to do is capture that with my hackle pliers just at the tip. Then I can sweep back the fibres. Just going to wet my thumb and forefinger in my left hand, sweep back the fibres, and then you get the Christmas tree effect, which you may have seen watching any of the other fly tyers or some of my previous videos. So I've now got a little tag to catch in there, and I'm going to get just a couple of turns to hold it into place. Pull it all back, a couple of turns in front, then I'm going to come in with my scissors and just remove the tag end. Then I can grab my hackle pliers, and what I want to do is bring it around one turn. You can see it's twisting there, so what I want to do is sort that twist out for a start. Then we'll use the thumb and forefinger in my left hand to sweep back the material, and I'm looking for at least 2 turns minimum. If I can get 3 in, all the better. But what I don't want to do is have the hackle extending down to cover the body. So that's looking not too bad at the moment. And will I get one more in? Just sweep that back, and I surely have. So once I've got that in place, I can come through my hackle, and once I've trapped it into place, the hackle pliers can be dispensed with. Keep tension on your thread at all times. If you let it go, it's liable to slip off, and you'll be left having to rewind your hackle, if it's survived contact, that is. So I've swept everything back with my thumb and forefinger, and I'm now on the head build-up section of the fly. If you just keep the hackle pinched in, once you've secured your head, just simply pull away your tag end, and then I'm going to come in with my whip finish tool. Whoop, missed the hook. Even after all this time, the whip finish tool is still trying to kick me in the ass. There we go. Got it that time. Once you've got a bit of tension, 3 turns or 4 turns should do it. Catch that in, and simply take away your waste end. Now I'll finish that with a touch of UV resin, so I couldn't spit it out there, but you can use varnish, super glue, whatever you prefer, and you end up with a really nice looking cruncher. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed that, why don't you check out this video to see what I mean about the teardrop effect that I like to get with my crunchers.